All right, welcome to day 2 of the 4 costly card investing mistakes course. This one's a good one, so lock in. We're going to talk about a decision framework that can help you level up every single purchase you make from this day forward. So, high value lesson. But before we get to that, I want to take you back about 20 years and tell you a quick story that I think will give context to why this is so important. About 20 years ago is when I got into this market, and one of my first purchases, I actually still have this card, and it sits on my desk. And it's this Sammy Sosa autograph, jersey card from like 2004 Timeless Treasures. Cool card, right? I bought it as an investment though, or at least I thought I did. And the reason why I bought it, I can't explain to you. It's a player that I liked, it's a card that I liked, but I had no strategy attached to it whatsoever. And that is why I still have this card. And so I paid like 85 bucks for this card back in the day. And I think in today's market, it's 35, 40, might be able to squeeze $50 on it. So good job, Ryan, right? Like going the wrong direction here right off the bat. So it's something that sits on my desk because it's a reminder about how important it is to always have a plan when making a card investing purchase. And this is what I messed up early on. And so I was buying my favorite players, my favorite teams, just like cards that I thought looked cool, that I figured if I thought they looked cool, maybe someday someone else might think these look cool and I'll be able to sell these for a profit. That's not how the market works. So let me save you some pain here and let's get into the framework that'll help you make better decisions here. So today's mistake is buying without a plan. And this is something that almost everyone does in this market when you're trying to learn just because you don't know any better. But the reason why this is a problem is because if you buy random cards without any kind of strategy attached to them, you're going to blow your budget on cards where they're going to sit on your desk collecting dust. Because if you're not being strategic, you're just not going to make much money in this market. You just won't. Like you're not going to luck yourself into making a consistent monthly profit, right? It takes strategy. And so when you buy random cards, you're blowing your budget on cards that don't really have a whole lot of upside usually. And so they just sit on your desk. And then when you go to sell something, it's like, oh man, I see a card online now that I actually do think is a good investment. What can I sell? Because I've already spent all my card money. I don't want to pull next month's mortgage payment out of, and start spending money that's not really for this purpose. So I better sell something, right? But then you look at all your inventory and it's just random cards that you bought and you probably didn't really pay too much of attention to the pricing on them. And so you can't actually sell anything. It's one of the most frustrating places to be in this market when you have a bunch of cards, but you feel like you're upside down on almost everything. It's just like, I'm taking losses on anything, any single card that I would sell right now. That sucks. So let's avoid that. Let's use this 2-question decision filter instead before the next time you invest in a card to make sure that you actually have a plan. So the first question is simple. Why do I believe that this card's value will rise? Second question, when do I realistically think that this is going to happen? That's it. Very simple. But if you can't explain a reasonable, logical answer to both of those questions, it's probably a card you want to pass on. Just having a reason isn't enough because you might have a great reason for why you think the card's value will rise, but if you don't have a timeline attached to it, then we're still putting ourselves in the same kind of no man's land where we don't know if or when it'll ever happen. And that's not what we're looking for when we're trying to build consistent income in this space. Let's talk about 2 quick examples so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, first example, we'll talk about timing and assume that we're buying a baseball card of a rising star type of player in November. And let's say it's Thanksgiving Day. So, you're with your family. Everyone's, focused, about to sit down to the Thanksgiving dinner. You got a football game on in the other room. You know what people aren't thinking about that time of year in that moment? Baseball cards. So that is a good time where sometimes you can scoop up a deal and find a card of a good player at a relatively low price. So good time of the year to buy for baseball, typically based on a lot of years of data, is toward the end of the calendar year. But then when the calendar flips over and we get into spring training, we get toward February, toward March, attention returns to the baseball market. The hype, the excitement, it's all there. And the values of key players, at least, tend to pick back up going into the season. And so my why for this particular investment would be because I'm buying at the right time and I'm planning to sell at the right time. My when for this investment is 3-4 months, right? So our timeline is basically the difference between November and March, or somewhere in the middle there. If I can make a flip before spring training, great. But that's kind of, I have a backstop at least. So very clear timeline, very clear strategy. That's example number one. And that's the kind of clarity we're looking for, by the way. Example number two, we find a clean, raw copy of a card. The numbers look great for grading, where a PSA 10 is going to sell for, quite a few multiples higher than our total costs, our raw price plus our grading fee. So we can make 300% on this card if we get a PSA 10. And the card looks good. It's got at least a chance at a 10. And so we send this thing off for grading. We're going to wait the 3-4 months, whatever it takes for PSA to turn this thing around. And then we'll try to flip the card for profit at that point in time. The clear why for this is I'm getting the card graded. And I think that if I get a PSA 10 on it, it's going to sell for way more than what I'm paying. The when is whatever the grading turnaround time is. So 3-4 months again in this example. So both examples here, crystal clear why, crystal clear when, and both of them are logical. So the key distinction here is you're not always going to be right. Like, we can't predict the future. We don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get a 10 on that card. It could come back an 8 because I missed something. Fine. But I like that I can very logically explain a realistic reason why that card's value will rise. And that's all I'm really looking for is, do I like the reason? Am I willing to bet my money that this strategy is going to give me a strong chance of actually turning a profit? And then do I like the timeline associated with it? And if so, green light, let's go buy that thing and let's give it a shot. Now, the other cool thing about the why when framework is that you can do this for cards that you're considering buying, but you can also do this for cards that you already have. And you can use this as a filter to decide, is it worth continuing to hold this versus is it maybe better to just sell this card for what it's worth today and move on to the next one? So for example, let's say I graded a card, I got a 10 on it, so I've got some margin built in, but I'm looking at it like, maybe there's still some upside. Maybe I like what this player's doing on the field. Do I hold this thing for a few more months and see if it goes even higher? Well, I don't really like the why, because it's kind of leaving it up to chance. It's kind of leaving it up to what happens on the field. That's outside of my control, so I don't love that. And then the win, I don't really like either, because I just said, let's hold for a few months and see if it might rise. So I don't really have a clear answer for that. And in that scenario, I'm probably going to take the money for that card right now and then go buy another card where I do like the why and the when. Maybe I go and buy another copy of the exact same card and try to grade it again and make that money all over again with a why and a when that I do like. So it can be used as a filter for purchases, but also for your current inventory. Here's an example of the real life impact of this one too. So I work with a card investor. His name is Matt, great dude. He's been in the card world for about 2 years. His first year in the market though, didn't know any card strategy, didn't really understand it. He was doing the speculative plays, he's buying kind of random stuff that he just thought was cool. And he ended up with a bunch of random purchases where he had no why, he had no when, and he ended up down almost $4,000 from those purchases. He just ended up with stuff where he was upside down on cards left and right. And he told me the other day that he still has some of these cards that he looks back on. He's like, man, I paid like $100 for this thing and it's worth like $22. Like, what do we even do with that? And so we got him on the right track and we got him plugged into some of the right strategies. And since that point, it wasn't overnight, but he started actually making money. And at this point, he makes between $1,500 and $1,700 per month because he's using proven strategies, and he always is able to answer the why and the when questions. So grading is a big one that he uses. He understands the seasonal timing now, and he's just got this engine revving now. But the key difference between his first year and his second year in the market is strategy and always having a plan. So that's it for this one, guys. Hopefully this is helpful. Use this framework. It's going to help you make better, more objective decisions. It'll help take kind of some of the emotion out of the equation so you can make sure that every time you buy a card, you have a real strategy tied to it. That'll take you so far in this market if you just do that one step alone. So tomorrow's another good one. So be on the lookout. Watch your inbox. We're going to talk about why and when taking losses can actually make you money. So it sounds backwards, but I'll explain tomorrow. Get excited. It's a banger. We'll see you there.